We're here to present a very serious subject. The subject is real estate. Some of you might think real estate might be a little bit boring, but one of the interesting things about real estate is it's one of the biggest sectors in the world. As you see here, real estate, I mean, it's just a colossal number. Real estate is $270 trillion, not billion, $trillion industry. It's bigger than stocks, bonds, bullion, and crypto combined. And that doesn't just stay stagnant. I mean, most of it does, but 1.4 trillion transacts per year. And what's interesting is despite the fact that it's 1.4 trillion per year, it's super opaque. No one really fully understands what the pricing should be. It's non-transparent market, and basically, we're here to change that. So without further ado, what are we trying to do? I can tell you, I mean, I just spoke at a couple of conferences. Once in a while, real estate people show up and they tell you, look, we have two problems. One problem is it's completely liquid. We don't know what the pricing should be, and assets sit there, and for a while we can't sell them, etc. Number two, problems in rentals. Also, same idea. The market is bifurcated. There's high fees. So we're here to fix all this. Number one, that we have tokenized ownership, and then second is P2P rentals, and I'll elaborate how these parts of our platform work. What is tokenized ownership? Tokenized ownership essentially is taking a hard asset, right now, basically, you can't really tokenize hard assets, as maybe you've heard the previous conversation. But we're taking a hard asset, putting it into a special purpose vehicle, which is tokenizable, and then subsequently tokenizing this vehicle, which is an LLC. And so in essence, what you have is tokens that are tied to a company that owns 100% of the asset. And so what's interesting with this construction is you can actually trade an asset which, before basically you needed, lawyers, documents, etc. You can basically trade this in tokens. You can trade this on the exchange. And I'll show you further in more details. So how does this, again, how does this work? And sort of what does it provide? With a traditional asset, let's say you're trying to sell a skyscraper. Sort of classical example. It's really difficult to sell a skyscraper. I mean, it's a large asset. You really need to find a buyer. That buyer needs to find financing. There's all kinds of difficulties. What we envision is that this skyscraper would be put into a shell company, into an LLC, tokenized, and then sold to multiple people. So a person with $10,000 can buy a small piece of a skyscraper. And this person will have 100% assurance that this asset is legally checked, put into an SPV, which is legally checked. All of that is on a blockchain. There is price discovery because tokens of this particular skyscraper will trade all day long on our exchange. In other words, the asset will have its own token, and every day there will be bids and offers. And if each token is, let's say, a unit of, let's say 1 millimeter, you understand how much the skyscraper costs at any given second. So price discovery, accessibility, because it's, you can trade right from your phone, and obviously liquidity. So, I mean, for this crowd, this slide is meaningless because, of course, you know how distributed ledger technology works. So one thing that, however, that I wanted to point out to is that there's a lot of startups in the real estate space. And everyone says we're going to tokenize everything. Everyone says, OK, we're the next revolution. But what's really important here is something that actually works in the current time frame. People that tell you, OK, we're going to be the next government blockchain solution. That's wonderful, but it's unclear when that's going to happen. This basically, on the right is something that we're going to put together. Basically, you have a distributed ledger of holders, and within the company inception documents, basically it will state an address of all the token holders. And so in essence, you have a company which is subdivided. It has clear ownership, and this company has 100% asset which is bound to it. So basically, there's a complete link between the token and the asset. It's a little dark, sorry guys. We have a proof of concept. You can look at it on our webpage. This is a slightly later iteration, should be coming out in a week. So basically, this is what a trading screen would look like. On the right, you see bids and offers. On the left, pricing. On the bottom, I mean, it says 300 Park Avenue. So, I mean, just an example of an asset. So, this is how a property token will trade. So, after it's basically tokenized, you can buy or sell simply with a click of a button. And essentially, you will be long an asset if you lift an offer. And this works. You can actually check it out on Atlant.io. So just very quickly, skipping to we have actually two parts to our project. The second problem, I mean, so real estate people say that if you manage to solve this, you found the Holy Grail. The second part to our problem is basically P2P rentals. Now, of course, there's a lot of upstarts or not so much upstarts, guys along the lines of Booking or Airbnb that have entered the P2P rental space. But what's interesting is they're actually not truly P2P, meaning it's P to some business to P. And the problem is actually this business. It creates a substantial overhead and just wastes a lot of money, to be honest. So we're trying to actually use the power of blockchain to truly make this P2P. Number one, I'll explain later mechanics, but number one, it'll substantially reduce fees. Number two, I mean, there's been all sorts of lawsuits about fake ratings and reviews, on TripAdvisor and all these things. Not to mention all the names, but we're going to have true rating, obviously, because it's on the blockchain. If you leave a rating, it's there, it's immutable, no one can change it. Again, the sort of main advantage: low fees, immutability, scalability, because basically it operates on nodes. There is no servers. If I get run over by a bus, this system will continue to work. Hopefully not. And so just quickly about numbers, so it's not just words. Everyone talks about Airbnb, how fast they grow. These are not my numbers, these are Goldman Sachs' numbers. What's interesting about Airbnb, and this is the market we're trying to disrupt, is, believe it or not, they're actually fairly small. They're just growing from a very low base, and they're growing rapidly. And so, per Goldman, right now they're growing at, right now basically the growth in the US, right? And in the US, it's their biggest market. Occupied room supply growth is only 3%. I mean, it's tiny. But with the use of blockchain technology, they project that this would basically double out to 2020. And I believe they've hired some guys to help them with blockchain, but I think we're smaller, we're nimble, and we would like to do it faster. Again, I mean, lots of numbers, you probably can't see that far, but just the main idea here is, again, blockchain will completely revolutionize P2P rentals. So RevPAR is sort of an indicator that people use to look at hotel rooms and things like this. And so essentially, base case scenario out to 2020, Airbnb worldwide occupied room growth is 30%. With blockchain, it's 60%. So what I would tell you from that is, I mean, I won't tell you our numbers because we're currently not in operation, but growing from a lower base and starting from, basically a blockchain solution right away, hopefully we will achieve similar or higher growth. And by the way, we have the tokenization sort of trading framework already on the website. You can see we have an Android wallet that you can download. The P2P rentals engine should be coming up in about a week on our website, so you can test it out. Again, more growth. As you can see, this is, I mean, basically this massive growth in Airbnb is going to continue. And essentially, we can both coexist. We just think that eliminating the middleman will increase basically the speed. So what's sort of the main difference? Number one, we accept cryptocurrency and we accept fiat as well. We have partners with whom we can accept fiat. It's advantageous if you use cryptocurrency because you basically save money. I mean, credit cards charge 1.5%, 2%. So that's one cost savings. The second massive cost savings is conflict resolution. So if you look at Airbnb, they employ, I think now close to 5,000 people to basically, solve your problems. So you show up at a room, you booked a 2-bedroom, you have an amazing view, everything's wonderful. You show up, it's in the basement, it's 1 bedroom, there's, it's dirty, right? You're not happy, right? So you call them up and you say, please fix this for me, please move me to a new room. So they have 5,000 people on staff to take care of this. And I mean, as they should, right? But that being said, I mean, I've basically had some problems. Even now, you know, I booked a room on Booking, but an apartment on Booking, and I've had some issues. It's not solved perfectly. I think we will solve it in a better way. We will basically have the same customer service, and we will basically have lower price. And I'll explain. Let me just skip to 1 second. OK, so this is a little bit involved about how we're going to sort of change Airbnb, but bear with me. So to take a step back, I'll tell you there's two companies. One is OpenBazaar, one is BidSquare. Maybe you guys are familiar. So OpenBazaar is basically eBay, which is decentralized, and it has substantially lower fees. BidSquare is a decentralized exchange, also very low fees, and completely decentralized. Doesn't depend on anyone, cannot be stopped by any government, etc. So we use their protocol for arbitration for conflict resolution. And I mean, I don't know if you can see this far, but essentially the way that it works is as follows. So instead of keeping these 5,000 people sitting at desks, whether it's a holiday or a lot of people traveling, not a holiday, and basically they're sitting there and there are no conflicts to be resolved, all token holders in our platform have the option to become an arbiter, right? And an arbiter resolves conflicts. The reason they would want to do this is just to earn extra money. And so imagine the situation. So you show up, you get a room that you don't like, and the person says, no, the picture is correct, etc. So you have a conflict. And so instead of basically writing to Airbnb or emailing or what have you, or another platform, you press a button in our platform, an arbiter gets elected. Now, an arbiter is not an employee. Again, it's any token holder that says that they want to be an arbiter. Now, one interesting thing is everyone in the system puts in escrow. So the renter puts in escrow, the rentee puts in escrow, and the arbiter puts in his escrow. And then basically the arbiter looks at the situation. He says, OK, well, he looks at the pictures, he makes phone calls, does a similar setup to the way that it's done currently with existing systems. And he makes a determination. He says, well, you are right, and you are wrong. And his fee is not collected from sort of the fee for the room. His fee is collected from the escrow of the party that basically is wrong. So the difference here is as follows. I mean, with Airbnb, from the renter and the rentee, essentially combined, you lose about 30%. So of $100 that you pay for the room, $30 is gone. Right here, nothing is gone. In other words, the fee that any party receives from the fee that sort of the arbiter receives from a problematic situation is from the escrow of a person who caused the problem. Now, again, it's a little bit convoluted, but it works. If there is a complaint against the arbiter, because the arbiter is not an employee, and someone says, you know what, I think the arbiter is colluding, or I don't really believe that, I want a second opinion. There's a concept called super arbiter, and that's basically a senior arbiter that has done multiple arbitrations. And so a senior arbiter can get elected if there's such a situation. He looks at the situation of 3 people, and either says, OK, that situation is fair, and just gets an extra point, becomes a higher level arbiter. Or he says, yes, the arbiter is colluding, and takes his escrow away. So what does this all mean? Why do we need this? So number one, again, in a system like Booking or Airbnb, the guy just sits there and he can resolve as many problems as he wants per day. He's not getting paid per resolution. So maybe your problem won't get resolved as fast. Here, he gets paid precisely for each resolution. So he's basically, the more problems he solves, the more money he gets, right? So he wants to do it as fast as possible. Number two, he actually has escrow in the system. So if he cheats or presses a random button or does something unsavory, he will lose his escrow. And so he has to resolve it correctly, or he should resolve it correctly. And so we believe with the system, bottom line is, instead of wasting 30%, you'll spend maybe 3 to 5% on fees. And so basically, the room that will cost you $100 might, with our platform, cost you, I don't know, $85, plus minus. That's kind of the benefit. So very quickly about technology. Okay, just very quickly about technology. We're plugged into the Ethereum framework. We have our own nodes, and essentially, which are hashed into the Ethereum network. And both the rental and the tokenization platform are plugged into the system. Just very, very quickly about the team. They're kicking me off the stage. So that's me. I spent most of my life as a banker. Dennis, CTO, has built 2 different crypto exchanges with his team. That's the team. They're quite young guys, but very solid programmers. Oleg is my lawyer, who works at BLP. These guys helped with the Shard, with Canary Wharf, and quite a lot of other real estate projects. Greg basically founded Knight Frank in Russia, and that's that. So sorry for the quick ending.